Welcome back, friends. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to build a mini food pantry just like this one right here. I'm going to show you the material required, the approximate cost, and the approximate time that it takes. And I'll also have a link to some of these cool accessories down below. So if you want to find out more about this and get involved in your local community, stay tuned and watch this video all the way through. So let's get started. The building material I use in this project mainly consists of one sheet of 3/8 plywood. I also used a premium grade 1x4 pine and some 1/8 inch plexiglass, 2 small pieces. Here's the plans I'm going to have provided down below that you can print out and build your own. The first thing I did is measure out the big pieces I need to cut for the box. There's 8 of them, and then there'll be some smaller pieces later on. And here I'm cutting the back portion right here. This is the angle cut, so I had to do it a little bit of freehand. And now this is the front, and I'm just cutting out where the doors are going to go. And there it is. And now it's time for me to start sanding all these big pieces right here. So I'm going to use the MILWAUKEE 5-inch random orbit sander. This is a M18 sander. I have a 5 amp hour battery, and I'm using 220 grit sandpaper to do the work. So I'll have a link down below if you want to find out more about it. So now it's time to move the project inside the garage because we ran out of daylight. And my solution for that, I have the MILWAUKEE M18 3000 lumen light and charger. This thing goes on top of the MILWAUKEE PACKOUT. And you can see right here, I just turn it on. It's really bright. There's one big main light, and then there's 2 smaller lights on the side. And there's different mode settings, high, medium, low. And then you can switch between the 2 small lights or the 1 big light. You can just see how this is lighting up my work surface. And I'll have a link to this, as I mentioned, like the other items, down below in the video description, if you want to find out more and see the awesome reviews on it. Now, one thing that's important to me is keeping the sawdust down in my shop. So the thing that I'm wearing on my back right here, this is the Milwaukee Fuel 1 gallon backpack vacuum. It's a 3-in-1, and you can see it hooks right up to my sander right there. And wherever I walk, I have that vacuum with me, and it's cordless. Next day, we're going out into the daylight and working outside. Time to do some staining. So I'm using this Varthane wood stain. I could also use some deck stain too, but this is what I had on hand. And when I wear a shop apron, it's usually when I'm using stain because it tends to splatter a little bit, and I don't like getting it on my clothes. So one thing I noticed with sanded plywood like this, it soaks up the stain really fast. There's really not much working time. So what you put on there, you're not going to be able to wipe off very much. It's going to hold that initial color that you put in. So just be aware of that. The stain that I'm using is a premium one, and it dries in about an hour, which works well for this project right here. And I'm going to top it with this TOTALBOAT Halcyon Clear Rugged Clear Gloss Varnish. And you just pour it on. I just use either this sponge right here. Sometimes I use a foam brush. I'm going to end up putting 3 coats on it. And the nice thing is you don't have to sand in between coats. And it just is ready to go. After an hour, it's dry. So I briefly mentioned the Milwaukee Fuel backpack vacuum I was wearing, and it's really handy for cleaning the floors. I also hook it up to my table saw and miter saw. So my table saw right here, I don't have the adapter for it at the moment, so I'm just using some duct tape for the couple hours in my garage. There's a couple cuts on the base of the pantry that require a 7-degree bevel. So now I just turn the vacuum on high, and I'm ready to start ripping some plywood. So now I'm going to put the top shelf in, and one mistake I made is I stained it on accident. I want it to be white to match the bottom shelf. So I'm going to go ahead and paint it. So here's a piece I decided to make on my own. It's not part of the plan. You don't need it. I just decided to put it in there for a little extra support. I'm calling it a ridge. Just something that I can screw the plywood to, and then the shingles as well. And there's going to be a little screw that goes through that later on. You'll see that holds the little chimney cap. Now I'm working on the doors, cutting the 45-degree miters. So I'm going to eventually paint those red. That's the frame part, and there's plexiglass that goes on the middle of it. And you can see that vacuum right there, how well it works with the miter saw, collecting all the sawdust. A nice thing about this table saw is it runs dado blades, so I am doing some rips with my dado blade set. And this just helps to weather seal the doors to the box. I'm using this clamp system right here to glue and nail 3 of the sides together of the door frame. Then I'm going to slide the plexiglass in the little slot that I ripped, and then do the other one. Right here we have the planter box for the succulents. And here you can see I have a can of Great Stuff expanding foam. So I'm going to put some in the planter boxes on each side for the succulents, and then also use some in the chimney. And the plans for the Great Pantry Project are provided by Great Stuff. So this screw right here that's going through the roof, that's going to hold the little chimney. So I have this contour gauge right here that I'm using from Empire, and I'm going to trace that onto these 2 little pieces of wood right here, because that's what's going to go on top of the roof. And I have the Milwaukee M12 Fuel compact bandsaw right here. It's portable. I don't have a regular bandsaw in my shop, so this actually really comes in handy for making those cuts. It was just something I use for plumbing and some electrical work once in a while, like cutting conduit. But this was handy, and I just used it to cut the 3/8 plywood. You see, it cut the shape that I wanted. And now let's go ahead, and you'll see what it looks like, the finished product on the roof here in just a second. There it is. And you can see how the contour right there matched the roof. I have a few more things to do. So there's a barrel bolt, and it's hard to find a smaller one. So at Home Depot, I picked up a 2-inch barrel bolt, and I just modified it a little bit. So you'll see how I'm doing some cutting to just make it look a little neater. So I'm going to just use 2 screws to hold it in place on the right door. So just a little bit of grinding right here with this little handy little Milwaukee tool. So check out this. See how it looks right there? It's a little cleaner looking and looks a little more intentional. And then I'm just going to attach the other side and get everything lined up. That way you can lock it and keep the doors from flying open like in the wind or something. Has a magnetic catch too. And the final item to finish this off would be the solar light right here. Now, in case you're wondering how long it takes to build something like this, I would say that it could be done in a weekend, especially if you have an organized shop. There is one more thing that I almost forgot. It would be helpful to have some type of sign or some words here letting people know that this is a mini food pantry. So you could write something on here, maybe like in an ink pen that says, take what you need, leave what you can, or something like that. So hopefully this has been helpful for you learning how to build a mini food pantry. So now I just want to pass along some of my advice to you on what has worked well for me with the food pantry. So I wasn't able to find a location right away. I had like 3 or 4 different places that I was looking at, and I spoke with 3. One place out of the 3 definitely responded right away. The other ones I didn't hear back from. So another thing that might be helpful for finding a place to put a food pantry is to talk to your local food bank. They might know some areas that it might serve some of the people that need it most. Some people, they have a hard time getting in depending on the weather to the food bank, and something like this is a great resource to them to help combat food insecurities. So the things that I noticed work well: anything that's not in glass in case it freezes, you don't want that. So anything in a plastic jar or anything that's non-perishable, that works well. One thing I've always thought would be just food, but putting some toiletries in there, that works really well too, and some personal hygiene items. So here's the cost that I came up with. We have a sheet of plywood for $36.63. I went with a finished grade 1x4x8 pine right here. You could get a lot cheaper, but I paid $16. A treated 4x4x8, this is the post, $14.77. A treated 2x4x8, $10.27. These 2 items are for the installation at the site. Some deck stain, some hardware that's just grouping several things together. The succulents to add some extra decoration to both sides. The solar light, it's a 2-pack for $7. The expanding foam can, that $3.78. So my grand total is $140.51. So then the final items I did not include in the cost would be like the roof shingles. I happen to have some left over from my house. A lot of people have some when they get their house reshingled. And if you don't have any, a new bundle is about 25 bucks, but I bet if you asked on Facebook, you could find a friend that would probably let you have 6 of those. And then the foam brushes for applying the stain, the wood glue, the screws, and spray paint, things like that. So that's stuff that I happen to just have on hand, and I didn't need to go out and buy anything. So right here is the cost. And the thing that helped me out the most was actually my wife shared a post of mine on the local town or local community board on Facebook, and that just really got a lot of exposure. A lot of people shared it, and it was just such a rewarding thing. It's great to hear all the people complimenting me for doing something like this and being a part of the community. Everybody helping each other out has been wonderful. So I hope this video has been helpful for you if you have been always wondering about putting up a mini food pantry, on some of the costs and the amount of effort it takes to build something like this. And if you find this video to be helpful, interesting, and informative, please give the video a thumbs up and help support my channel. That's it, friends. Thanks for watching. See you next time.